Hi, in this video I would like to show you how to set up development environment for Tyra engine. This tutorial will consist of 3 parts. At the beginning I will show you what programs you should install, then we will deal with the configuration of these programs, and at the end we will make test changes in the source code, and we will compile the engine and run one of the Tyra tutorials on the PlayStation 2 emulator. I will use Windows operation system, but you can use Linux as well. This should not be a problem because compiler and all necessary tools are placed on the Docker image. So let's get started. First tool which you need is a Docker. Tyra uses it heavily because PlayStation 2 programming requires a lot of tools to install, which is time consuming. Currently in Tyra Docker image there are whole homebrew PS2 dev environment, which contains the PS2 SDK, a lot of library ports, compilers and linker. Then Sony's VCL tool, which main task is to optimize vector unit assembly code, and VCLPP preprocessor, which is a preprocessor for these VCL assembly files. Let me explain you the process how you will utilize this Docker image. As first, we will copy your source code into a Docker container. Second, we will run the compilation process inside. And as last step, we will copy back output binary from the Docker container into our host. There are a lot of tutorials which cover how to install Docker properly, so I will not do it in this tutorial. By the way, I recommend you to install Docker with WSL2 support. It will work faster. The next thing to install is the Powershell. Probably you have it already in your Windows system, but I recommend you to update to latest version. After it, you should install PS2 emulator, and don't forget about installing BIOS file for PS2. Next thing will be the Git versioning system. It will allow us to perform commands like git pull and git clone. And the last thing will be our code editor, VSCode. To be honest, you can use whatever you want code editor. I will use VSCode because I already added to Tyra VSCode project configuration files. Okay, so let's start with second step. First we will check the Powershell version. I believe it was the version table. Okay, so your version should be the same or higher. Okay, so let's go to PCSX2 and we'll configure 4 things there. First, what we want to do is to enable hostfs setting. It is an option which allows the emulator to access your host file system. So for example, if you will run your game, open your game, emulator will have access to music files, to texture files and so on. And this option is hidden in this version of emulator, but from what I remember in version 1.7 it is there. Okay, so let's do it. So we must turn off emulator. It is very important because if we will not close the emulator, he will overwrite settings file. Yeah. So let's close it. Go to documents, directory, PCSX2. Let's open this VM file, and as you see, I have it there. Yeah, it should be enabled. It's very important. Okay, so let's go back to PCSX2, and we will configure now one of the PCSX2 hacks. So let's go to emulation settings, and as you see there, we must enable emotion engine timing hack because this will fix texture flickering problem which not exists in real PlayStation 2 hardware. So for example, if you will not enable it, you will have texture problems in PCSX2 emulator, but if you will run game on real PlayStation 2 hardware, it will work properly, yeah. So it is important to have it enabled. And next thing will be, yeah, this terminal, or how to say, this program log window. As default, it is very illegible, so I recommend you to change the font to larger and enable dark theme, yeah. So our logs, game logs, will be more visible. And the last thing will be the path settings. It is there, yeah. And you should map right joystick, left joypad, circle, square, all of these buttons to your keyboard, or if you have a path, so map it to your path, so you will be able to use path, yeah, in your games. And I think that's all for PCSX2. Okay, so let's download the source code. As first, I will create the repositories directory, and we will download Tyra code here. So let's open PowerShell window in this directory. So press Shift button and right click, and you will have option to open PowerShell window here. So let's type git clone and paste the link to Tyra repository. So this link will be right here. So let's copy it and paste. And as you see, Tyra code was downloaded. Let's talk a little about the folder structure in Tyra. VSCode directory contains configuration files for the VSCode. Demo has a demo game, yeah, Tyra demo game. Docs contains the documents. Currently there is only one document about the installation of Tyra. And next we will have the engine source code. This directory is a template for your game, yeah, so you can copy it and create your own game. There will be tutorial about that, yeah, probably I will put link right here. And there is tutorials directory, and this contains all of the tutorials of Tyra. And let's now talk also about the structure of template, demo, and the tutorials directories. So let's open demo. As you see, there are 4 folders. Bin is the output directory with your game binary and all of the assets. Include directory contain header files of your C++ code. Res directory contain all of the assets of your game. All of these assets will be copied to the bin directory during the compilation process. So this directory contains complete all of the files of your game, yeah. And the source directory is the directory with your source code, yeah, with your CPP files. And as you can see, template also have this folder structure, and the tutorials also, yeah. And it's time for VS Code right now. Let's open Tyra repository. This is right there. Yeah, and at this moment probably VS Code will open notification and will ask you if you want to install recommended extensions for this project. You should click yes there. This list of extensions is right there. It is a CPP tools extension, some header utility tool, assembly, IntelliSense, and some. To be honest, remember that you will not write assembly, yeah? So don't worry. And you can install these extensions manually right there, yeah. So this is the C++ extension and so on. let's copy configuration files. As you see in folder .VSCode, there is configurations directory which contains further directories for operation systems. Currently there is only Windows configuration directory, and we have three files there. We should copy these three files and put into the .VSCode folder. Okay, so CPP properties JSON is a file with configuration for the C++. As you see, VSCode shows us that we should fix this IntelliSense path. Yeah, we will do it in a second. And next file is a settings JSON, which contain only one important thing. It is this line. This line is a setting for the current build directory. I will also cover this in a second. And task JSON, this is the most important file. It contains all pre-configured commands for the Docker. So if you will open the Task Explorer, you see that you will see all of these tasks. Yeah, so these 4 tasks are for the compilation process. You have some debug tasks, some cleanup, start stop Docker container. I will also discuss about it in a second. And as you see, every logic is inside Docker. Yeah, so every command is like docker exec, docker do something, yeah. So we don't need any tool on our host system. Okay, so let's start with this IntelliSense fix. So we must go to Tyra repository and go to latest releases, and we need to download these things, all of these, yeah, to be honest, because we'll need all of this in a second. So let's download these 3 zip files. Okay, and let's create directory for our IntelliSense. I will also do it in my desktop, so maybe I will do it right there. IntelliSense, maybe Tyra IntelliSense. Okay, let's open this archive and paste the content. Okay, good. To be honest, this compiler is not necessary, but I forgot to delete it. Okay, so let's copy the path, go to VSCode and replace it. I selected this via middle mouse button, yeah, so you can use also this button. As you see, there is problem with the backslash, so maybe I will fix it manually. Okay, so maybe oops, do this. Okay, yeah, and that's correct. And currently, from now, VS Code should enable IntelliSense in your project. So, for example, if you will go to the code, for example, to the Dust tutorial, you will see that there is no red errors, yeah. And if you will press Ctrl button and click, for example, to begin frame, everything is covered, yeah, and everything works correctly. Okay, cool. So we have it done, and let's also go back to these two archives. These two archives contain assets file for the tutorials. It means the textures, yes, music, and so on. So let's paste it to the res directories. So let's go back to Tyra. Or maybe to the main folder and open tutorials archive. Okay, so you see that these are the two folders, so let's move it, and it should replace and paste all of the files. Okay, let's double check if it works. So for example, let's go to the just press, yeah, it's right there. Yeah, all of the files are copied. Okay, and also let's open demo too. Yeah, and copy it there. Yeah, great. So I think that it's all for the VS Code, and we can go to the Docker right now. Okay, let's go with the Docker. So we can open the terminal in the VS Code, and as you see, VS Code opened for me Powershell terminal. So if you will have CMD there, you can open it manually from this toolbar. Yeah. Okay, so let's type docker pull, and let's download Docker image with Tyra. As you see, I have it done already, and we can go now to the last step of the tutorial. This will be the changing the source code and running the tutorials, one of the tutorials in emulator. Okay, so let's open which tutorial we'll choose. I think the most spectacular is the test2, so let's do it. So if you want to work with the tutorial 4, we should open the settings file and type that we want to compile this project. So we must put the relative path. So this will be tutorials, yeah, and 04 dust2. Okay, so great, and let's start Docker container, yeah, because from this Docker image we will create Docker container, yeah, and you should start it every time you want to start working with Tyra. So let's start the Docker container. Yeah, it's started, and we can, in my opinion, run the tutorial. Yeah, so let's press Ctrl+Shift+P and run build task. Yeah, enter. As you see, source code is copying with the assets, it's compiling inside, there is whole compilation process. Yeah, for the first time it will take a while, so maybe I will speed it up. Okay, cool. It takes so long because at first Docker compiled all of the engine files and then our tutorial files, and as you see, he copied the binaries to the host and ran PCSX2 automatically. Yeah, and that's it. Let's explore dust2, and we will go to the A-bomb site. Okay, cool. And so let's do some changes. Yeah, for example, what we can do, we'll do two things. I would like to show you how to edit the Tyra code. Yeah, so to be honest, it's really easy. For example, let's go to the engine directory, source code. What we can change, maybe go to the file loaders and open obj loader. So let's add some line here, for example to the load function. I will add here Tyra 1. Okay, some lines and put here hello from tutorial. Yeah, and let's compile it. You can add a shortcut, yeah, for this run build task. You can do it right here in the keyboard settings, I think, keyboard shortcuts, yeah. So run build task, and you can I assign Alt and F2 for this. So when I put these two buttons on press this when I will press these two buttons on keyboard, the compilation will run automatically. So see, it started. It compiled only the changed file. Let's wait a bit. Yeah, and let's check if we will have, yeah, hello from tutorial, yeah, because we are loading the just to obj file. Okay, so it's working, and you can also change the source code in the tutorial as well, yeah, by changing some values. Okay, so I think that's all for this tutorial. Next tutorial, from what I remember, I will cover how to create your own template for the game, how to run these games in the or tutorials in the real PlayStation 2 via USB, and also we'll talk a bit about the tutorials, yeah. So this will be something like this. Yeah, so thank you for watching and see you.